Hi everyone, I'm Christopher Elliott and I am joined by Aaron Elliott, my son. How are you, Aaron?
Hello there. I'm doing well. Everything is just perfect. We're loving New Zealand.
We are in Christchurch, New Zealand.
I know.
And we've been here for a little bit, maybe a couple of weeks it's been.
It's been so long since we've done a podcast.
I know. We should maybe, because people are just tuning in, explain, who we are and what we're doing. We've been traveling around the world for the last almost 5 years now.
Well, yeah, more like 7 years. I mean, this has been something that's been a part of our DNA for so long, but technically after the pandemic. So.
Right, yeah. And I am working on the road. I'm a travel writer and a consumer advocate, and you are a student, and full disclosure, you are also my son.
Yes. It brings benefits, perks.
Yes, which is why we kind of sound similar, and why sometimes when there's a voice recognition program, it can't tell the difference between the two of us because we do sound similar.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Except that I have a more baritone, mature voice.
Of course.
Smooth radio-like.
Oh, yeah. You have a face for radio.
Oh, thanks a lot.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay, so we should talk about Christchurch, which is on the South Island of New Zealand. We spent about 6 weeks on the North Island and then came down here thinking, hey, it's going to be summertime.
Oh, well, were we wrong? My goodness, it would be like expecting summer in Hirkenes, Norway, which is about the northernmost part of Europe.
Yeah.
The northernmost sort of civilized part of Europe. They have
Closest
a little town
major
there.
city is Vladivostok, Russia.
No,
Yes,
it's
it is.
not Vladivostok. Vladivostok is near
Murmansk,
Canada.
that's
It's
what it is.
Murmansk.
Murmansk. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes. Geographic illiterate. It's the irony of being a travel writer and not knowing your basic
I
geography.
spend most of my day looking at a map.
Okay, thank you very much. So this is why I take him with me, by the way, because I can't read maps. Anyway,
Oh, you can.
sometimes. Anyway, so I thought, okay, honestly, I believed that because we were coming here in January, which is the middle of summer, that we would get warm weather. But when we got here, we landed here January 3rd. What did we find here?
Yeah, it's just raining and cold.
Not only was it raining, it was storming. It was
Windy.
probably in the 40s and rain, and it was the kind of rain that there's so much wind here. So it was not summer at all, and people were apologizing for the weather.
Yeah, well, I mean, they said that they're having a really cold summer here. And I find that hard to believe. They say, oh, it's not normally like this. I mean, I've been in New Zealand, so we were just in Auckland, and the weather was pretty schizophrenic there, but this is next level schizophrenic.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 days ago, it got to the high of roughly 86
Yeah,
in a day.
it was hot.
And
yeah.
then the next day, it was a high of like 65.
Right.
And it was
And
cold.
windy.
Yeah.
And that's the thing here is that you get a lot of wind. We normally travel around when we are at a destination. This time, not so much. We tried to get down to the southern part of the island, but things just didn't work out. So we still have a lot of places to see. But what we did manage to do was get down to a place called Flock Hill. It's a new resort, which is not so far. It's about an hour and a half from here. And it's a beautiful train ride on the Transalpine Express.
Yes, that's trans with a Z.
Trans, yes, with a Z. And so,
Trying to get yourself canceled there.
yes, please cancel me. And it is just opened up. When the moment you saw it, you said, "This is an AutoCAD resort." Explain what you mean by that.
Well, it was just so sleek.
It
And
was.
I don't know if there was any other way of, because really the natural environment of this South Island,
It's
New
in the
Zealand
Alps, yeah.
Alps is kind of that way. It just looks too good to be true. You look at the grasslands and it looks like, something fake. Like out of Lord of the
The
Rings.
mountains.
I
Okay,
don't know.
yeah. if you're
Or Narnia.
if you're a fan of the Lord of the Rings, you will immediately recognize the New Zealand Alps. They are spectacular, but they're on kind of a different scale than the Alps that you find in Europe. They're kind of a little bit more compact and less developed.
Yeah.
So you get on the train in Christchurch, and the train ride is quite leisurely. It is, you can get there much faster. Well, let me just skip to the good stuff. A lot of the resort guests go there by helicopter, which is so decadent.
I know.
Like, really? You're taking a helicopter? But no, they
guess.
will land at Christchurch and then get a helicopter to this resort, which is pretty crazy.
I mean, I guess they can't wait. I mean, they got to go by private jet, and then they do a helicopter. You know, their time's valuable.
Their time is valuable, yeah. So that's the type of guest that comes there. But when we did it on the Transalpine Express, and it was a nice leisurely train ride through the mountains
And the Canterbury Plains.
and the plains.
Yes.
So yeah, the Canterbury Plains are interesting because that's actually a very productive agricultural area, as you discovered.
Well, actually, it's interesting because I don't know if you've been following AI news lately, but DeepSeek has been making shockwaves. So I decided to test it out while I was on the train back, skipping ahead a little bit. And what was fascinating is that the wheat yield world record, that is, you have per acre the quantity of wheat yield from that acre. The world record was achieved in 2017 in the Canterbury Plains.
Yes, beautiful,
right
very
here in New Zealand.
highly productive land.
Very highly productive. Yeah. But it is extremely intense agriculture. And I think this goes back to what we were talking about with the sheep, is the sheep actually provide a lot of services to these
When did we mention the sheep?
Well,
we haven't gotten to the sheep yet.
Well, okay. Anyway, Flock Hill is a sheep farm.
It's a sheep farm,
right?
yes. Okay, all right. We should
just skipping there.
It's a working sheep farm.
Yeah.
We should have said that. I'm glad you mentioned the news, though, because there has, as you know, the news has been dominated this week by the plane crash on the Potomac, tragic plane crash. And so that brings us to this week's question, which is unavoidable. We are getting on a plane on Monday to go to Sydney.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, that's made me think about, well, is flying safe? I know, because I write about flying and air travel all the time, that it is safe, but it reminded me of some of the times when I was on a plane and I wasn't so sure if we were going to make it. Like there was this one time when you and I think Aiden was with us too, we were in Alaska and we went on one of those little plane tours of, it was then called Mount Denali, and now it's Mount McKinley. I don't know what they call it anymore, but we were on, and I didn't know if we were going to make it because the plane was, I think, being held together by duct tape.
Well, I don't think that was the scariest, because you know what? Yeah, those tiny planes, they can be dangerous. But really, I think that the craziest plane rides that I've ever had are the ones that are super turbulent, that go over dangerous bodies of water. So, if the plane lands, for example, in the middle of the Arctic Ocean, for example, and then you say, just get on this life raft, and there are 9 meters swells. I mean, geez, I'd rather be dead by that point.
Okay, well, fortunately that hasn't happened to us, but we were. On the last flight that we were on, we encountered some pretty intense turbulence, and that was actually over the Tasman Sea between Australia and New Zealand as we were landing on that Qatar Airways flight. The longest, or like one of the longest flights ever, which is crazy. Anyway, so this week's question is, are you afraid to fly now? Can you talk a little bit about what some of your most dangerous flights have been? And overall, how do you feel now with what's happened about flying and traveling? We want to know because, our podcast is about travel, and we're very curious to know if you've had second thoughts, for example, about booking a flight this summer.
Yeah.
So tell us about the most dangerous flight that you've ever been on. That's the question. And we'd love to get your answers. We will read your answers in our next podcast. So, Flock Hill. You get to Flock Hill. Basically, you get picked up at the airport, at the train stations. I'm thinking about planes. Picked up at the train station, and you are then driven to this working sheep farm that looks like it was designed on AutoCAD. Very sleek.
Very, very sleek and modern, yeah.
Yes. And so tell me what we saw when we got there.
Well, first thing you need to know, Flock Hill is, how can I best say it, in a valley.
Yeah.
So it's surrounded by mountains. And when we arrived, unfortunately, the weather was terrible. But the next day, man, everything cleared up. Again, the weather's schizophrenic.
No,
New
wait,
Zealand,
No. We got there and the weather was okay. And the next morning, the weather was terrible.
Oh yeah, and it snowed.
It
snowed. In the mountains.
It snowed in the mountains. So
Yeah.
if you want to see snow in January, in the middle of the summer, go to southern New Zealand and you'll find it there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we're really that far south. So anyway, you saw snow in the mountains, and then everything cleared up, and it was beautiful. It was picturesque, or yeah, Pinterest.
Pinterest? Yes.
Not Pinterest. It's picturesque.
It is stunningly gorgeous. And one of the first things they do is take you on a farm tour. So you get to see how, I'm going to post a picture of me holding a sheep. You can hold a sheep.
Yeah.
Or it's really a lamb. The sheep are too heavy to hold. They show you how the sheepdogs will herd up or round up all of the herd. And then you see how there's a facility where they shear the sheep during it's October when they usually do it. So we missed that part. And so you just drive around and they explain everything about the farm. It is incredibly beautiful.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like this in my entire life. But the real attraction is not the farm, and it's not the resort, which has, all the amenities that you would expect from like a 5-star resort. It is the
Well, but that isn't an amenity. The food is the
The
amenity.
food! The
Yes.
food!
The food is
Yes,
the amenity.
thank you very much.
Yes.
It is, I don't think I've experienced anything like this. So they do a farm-to-table stuff where they grow all their food there. So they make sure everything comes from close by.
Yeah.
Everything that they serve there comes from close by. But the food itself is, please, Aaron.
The chefs are geniuses.
They're
like
geniuses,
they
yes.
really, they're very accommodating. Of course, we have dietary restrictions, but for the average person, I give it my stamp of approval. They especially do really good pizzas.
Oh, the pizza is so good.
All the vegetables come from their garden or nearby.
Yeah.
They do really good fruit and vegetables and salads and things like that. I mean, they're just very, very well-trained chefs. And honestly, it's totally worth it just for the food, because the food experience just blows you away.
It does. We were blown away. The chef there, his name is Taylor, he actually helped design the kitchen, and the kitchen is open. So you see them making the food, and they're very approachable. So you can walk over there and say, hey, how's it going? I really enjoyed this. And they love to talk to people. Even while they're working, they'll be happy to explain what they do. And so I would say that the philosophy there, it's very fusion, but it's really focused on healthy farm-to-table ingredients. I really hate that term farm-to-table because it's so overused. But in this case, it actually is. You can talk to the chef about where they're harvesting the vegetables and where, for example, they're very proud of their mushrooms, and there's a log in the back that's got mushrooms on it.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing with good farm-to-table food, or food that has any story to it at all, is that it helps. Like, it helps if you have a good justification, like, oh yeah, well, we got this from the backyard, and this is one of the best places in the world to grow these things, carrots or whatever it might be. But really, it doesn't work unless the food is great. And, I'm sure there are plenty of people who have had experiences in restaurants or in parts of the world where it is technically farm to table, but it's disgusting. And so,
Yes.
But this is the thing, is here it's farm to table and it's really good. So that definitely helps its case.
Flock Hill also cares a lot about sustainability, and I was there to do a story about sustainability. One of the things that they like to do is take people out to go hiking and show them this beautiful scenery. So we went out to a place called the Boulders, where they had shot a movie, the Narnia series they had shot. And indeed, the rest of southern New Zealand is very famous because The Lord of the Rings was shot there. So basically any kind of epic movie, especially one with battle scenes, they love filming it there because it just looks so... I think the really interesting thing is that the lens makes everything look grander. So you could have smaller Alps that look huge on film. So the other thing that we did was talk about some of we had a biodiversity tour, and they talked about how they're trying to get rid of some invasive species. And the most invasive of all species
Pines.
is the Tannenbaum. It's basically a beautiful Christmas tree that is just taking over the hillside. So they're trying to kill it.
Yes. Rest in peace, Christmas tree.
So apparently they're spending millions of dollars to get rid of Christmas trees so that they can make the world safe for the native species that.
Yeah.
Cool story I heard, though, was that there used to be a giant eagle.
Yeah. That used to carry away giant emu-sized birds, the moa. That's insane to me. That's like, you talk about mega, it would be mega fauna.
Yeah, but it was only like 600 years ago that
600 years ago,
this eagle, this huge eagle existed, and it had talons that were the size of a tiger claw, and it would carry away young children.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that that's not here anymore. I mean, say what you want about native species, I would not like to be preyed upon.
I would not like. I mean, I think it would be great to see one of these things, but I wouldn't want to be carried away by one. Who should go to New Zealand southern New Zealand at this time of year?
Well, you know what? I think that for what it's worth, we're probably dealing with an anomaly in weather. So anyone who wants to see New Zealand when it's like somewhere between 75 and 80 degrees most of the time, still.
Oh, yes. Is that the weather guarantee you're giving someone?
Right. You know, no, it's not a weather guarantee.
No.
But if you want to see that, this is the right time to come. If you want long days, you're going to get long days here. It is windy, but that's just with the weather. If you want to see the Alps, this is a great time.
Totally,
You're not going to get snow, though.
Yes, you will.
Well, you
will. We got snow.
Actually.
We did.
But
It was
not that much snow.
briefly, we got some snow.
So, but you know what? Actually, from my experience, and I think that your experience also echoes this, is that the weather here doesn't really change very much because it is more or less oceanic climate.
It's always crazy.
You have the constant regulation of the Southern Pacific Ocean, which keeps everything cool, and it would be kind of like Ireland. I think Ireland has so when's the best time to visit Ireland? Frankly,
I know what you're going to say.
Right?
Never, right?
No, not. You're going to always get the same kind of weather.
Yeah.
We were here.
I liked Ireland.
I would say here it was late fall here. When we were here last time,
the weather was very similar.
And it was very similar.
Yeah.
So in the end, if you have any attraction that you want to see, any time is good, just in terms of weather. Now, the things, who would want to come to New Zealand is people who are really interested in these plains and Alps, the drylands, all of that, Queenstown. Skiing definitely, that's going to be a winter thing.
Yeah, but most of the skiing here it's not really, they don't have real ski resorts. They're more clubs where they have little rope tows going up the mountain or they drive. It's not like alpine skiing you're used to. We should do like the lightning round here for Christchurch because we haven't really talked very much about things to do in Christchurch. You're shaking your head like because there's nothing to do.
No.
There are things that you can do. I mean, the main attraction really in Christchurch is the park, Hagley Park.
Hagley Park, Botanical Gardens.
Yes.
Also, Botanical Gardens is really a cool place to go to if you can go after sunset because it's so dark.
Yeah, you know, I overheard some Americans saying, there's nothing to do here. Yeah, well, you know, most people just hang out in that main area.
By the river, the Avon.
That's a whole little downtown area that's kind of being rebuilt now after the earthquake. And it's true, there really isn't very much to do there except go shopping. But there's my favorite coffee place. There's the food court there, Riverside.
The Riverside Market is great.
Which I highly recommend. And then you cross the road and you're in Hagley Park. And there's a little river, it's called the Avon, where you can rent boats and go down the river. It's a little bit like there's a gondolier who just guides you and gives you the whole spiel about the park. But it is, we walk in that park every day and it is beautiful. Yeah. So beautiful. So if, you know, I would not have an issue coming back to Christchurch. The people here are extra friendly.
Yeah.
Like in Auckland, people were nice compared to Australia. But in in the southern part of New Zealand, on the South Island, they were even nicer.
Yeah, yeah.
In our last podcast, we asked the question, what's the farthest you've been from home for the holidays? Wow, it's been that long since we've done a podcast. Home for the holidays. Okay. And did you ever answer? We had a lot of great responses to that. Marcia says, I was in the Air Force and in Southeast Asia during the Vietnam conflict. It was never declared a war. That's true. That was my first time away from home in Minnesota. And it was the first time away from snow, too, she says. At Christmas, there were temperatures of 93 degrees instead of 0. Just didn't seem like Christmas without the snow and cold. How true is that? You know, even in Auckland when we were there, it just didn't feel like Christmas. Yeah. Mitchell says, we lived in the Bay Area near San Francisco, and I was in Christchurch for the holidays. Right here. And the park across from the hotel, that would be Hagley Park, where we were staying, there was a national celebration of the holidays on Christmas Eve, and the next morning we had the best pancakes that we've ever had. Wow, you know what? We had really good pancakes when we were at the Flock Hill Resort, too.
Yeah, I love pancakes. You know, sometimes you walk by some of these restaurants down here and you smell pancakes. Travel In writes, in 2014, the day after Thanksgiving, after getting laid off, not finding a job that paid a living wage, and then selling virtually all of my possessions, wow. I took off from a foot of snow in my hometown in Michigan with just a backpack for 90 degrees in Australia, where I snorkeled the Great Barrier Reef in Cairns, hiked around Uluru, checked out the holiday markets in Sydney, then took a bus to Canberra to couch surf with a family I'd never met for Christmas and New Year's. It was one of my best Christmases ever. As much as I love my family, especially at the holidays, my daughters were grown and off on their own, and I discovered the kindest, warmest people around the world who opened their homes to me. In fact, I couch surfed all over Australia and ended up there for 2 months, and I'm still friends with these women 10 years later. To think we connected over Facebook. New Zealand was my next stop, the most stunning scenery, but that's another story.
Well, you know what? I take back all the comments about mean Australians. Hopefully when we go to Sydney, we'll meet some nice Australian people. But so far, you know, as you know, we were in Perth and Brisbane, and we didn't get a very kind reception there. I mean, we met some people who are kind of nice, but...
I mean, if you go by the behavior of the cars, then of course they're mean.
Okay, well, I saw actually someone get run over by a car when I was in Brisbane. It was a terrible thing.
Well, I think the only place where I've experienced outright hostility towards me was in London. But I loved London, so I mean,
yes.
whatever.
Oh, no, those are bicyclists. You were crossing the bike lane and they were yelling at you. I remember that.
That was unfortunate.
Annie says, our first 3 Christmas holidays in Cotswold outside of Perth, hey, we were there, was strange and lonely. Okay, well, Perth is a strange place. Yeah. Perth is so far from our families in South Dakota and our home in Colorado. Santa wears swim trunks and flip-flops. It's true. It's true. I mean, at that time of year, everything. When we were there in January, a couple of years back, they were having a heat wave. And we were in a place where the air conditioning wasn't working. Man, that was really bad. Wouldn't want to do that again. Remember, our question of the week is, we were talking actually about the plane crash, and we're curious about the most unsafe you've ever felt on a plane. And as a bonus question, did you get on the plane or not? I guess if you got on the plane and things didn't go well, we wouldn't be hearing from you.
Yeah.
We're off to Sydney. That's our next stop. We'll be there for a couple of weeks, and we will report back. We'll do another podcast from there. And then we have a huge adventure planned after that, so I hope you'll follow us. And I'm really glad that you listened to this podcast. Thanks for being part of our community, and thanks also for leaving your comments. We love reading your comments. All right, thanks for listening, guys. Bye.